Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to take a look at my recently finished sketchbook. It's Fabriano Venezia Book. It has 200 grams per square meter acid-free paper. It says that it's good for drawing, but actually it works well with the watercolor, as you can see on this example. So I wanted to have this sketchbook for a long time already, probably since I started sketching in the sketchbooks. I wanted to try this paper, but I'm kind of glad that it came to me not in the beginning, because probably I won't be able to understand this paper at that time. But for experienced sketcher, it's kind of good. Usually I dedicate the last page for my tests. I try different materials. I try how granulating watercolor behaves, how opaque watercolor and transparent watercolor works on this paper. I also tried watercolor markers, some watercolor crayons, ballpoint pen and ink pen, also some color pencils. And you will see I even tried oil pastels in this sketchbook. I also used some last pages to try different materials, crayons, watercolor markers, and some color swatches I made here as well. As I mentioned, it's more for the experiments, so it doesn't have the same style on each sketch. I wanted to try different medias, different techniques. I took it outside and worked in my studio, so you will see, and I will tell you a little bit about my experience with it and what I found helpful, what I didn't like about the sketchbook. And the first thing which I not really liked, that it didn't open flat in the beginning. I had to break the spine. So in the beginning I opened each spread and did it like this. So it led my sketchbook to lay flat. But at the end I found it difficult to paint with the watercolor, because even if I fix it with the paper clips, the water still runs to the middle of the sketchbook, and I found it a bit challenging to control even in my studio. So I think it would be an issue to work outside as well, and I like to take my sketchbook with me outside. Also, I found it a little bit heavy to carry it around with me. If I decide to buy the same sketchbook next time, I will get the smaller size. Let's get started and check what I sketched here. And the very first sketch I made on May 5th, and I finished it on July 3rd. In between, almost for a month, I didn't draw in this sketchbook because I was on vacation and I didn't take it with me since it's a bit heavy. I chose the different one, so I left it at home. That was my first sketch, and it was made on location. I didn't know anything about this paper, so I kind of wanted to experiment. That's why I used a pencil sketch and then some watercolor. Then I add some details with the black pencil. What I noticed that here in California, then it's hot outside, it's a bit challenging to cover big spots with the watercolor, because it dries very fast and sometimes it dries not very even. I didn't know how to control my washes at that moment to get the effect I wanted. So that was the first sketch. And then on my way home I sketched these fruits with a pencil only and added watercolor at home. I used the big brush and covered the whole berry in one wash, and I like that the water dries not evenly, so it allows me to get this watercolor effect, which I like a lot. So I like this sketch. Then the next one was this sketch. I needed to get it as flat as possible, so I chose something in the middle because in the beginning the sketchbook behaves unpredictably when it doesn't open flat. Yet some experiments with the watercolor washes at home. I try to remove the color, so you can see, since it's acid-free paper and not the cotton one, the watercolor layer can be easily removed, which allows you to make this smoke effect. Some other experiments. So at home it's possible to make the big wash of watercolor in one layer. This was the experiment with the watercolor markers. I first sketched with the marker, and then I sprayed the water from the bottle. You see this pattern here. It's the pattern which gives you the spray. And after it dries a bit, I added watercolor and some details with the pencil. Another experiment was with the ink. I used bamboo pen for the ink, this one. So I sketched directly with this pen without any pencil sketches, and even this background I covered with this pen only. So I didn't use any brushes here. Then again I took it outside, but this time I only had my watercolor pencils with me. And while I was waiting for my daughter, I sketched it very quickly. So I like how the watercolor pencils work on this paper as well. And then I bought myself peony coral. It's the type of peonies which changes colors each day. And since they didn't open evenly, I could see the different colors of the flowers each day in the bouquet. So this was the biggest one, and that was the smallest flower. So when the biggest one started to change the color, the smallest one just opened. And here you can see the second sketch. This sketch I made with oil pastels. So this flower and these two and the leaves I made with oil pastels. And here I used granulating watercolor Lunar Blue by Daniel Smith. So I like this effect of combination of the oil pastels and watercolor. On the next day, the smallest flower was in bloom, but the first two become a bit wilted and flowers were falling already. So I decided to sketch it in watercolor and the old ones just with the pencil, and I like this. And there was one more sketch with the peonies. Here it is. The next day I sketched it with no leaves at all, no petals. And the smallest one was also a bit wilted already. I sketched it directly with ink, with a glass pen, and I splashed some ink on the paper. And after I made these spots, I realized that I want to flowers to pop out from the paper, so I need to separate it from the background. And I chose the watercolor pencil of the same color which this flower had, and I like this. Then let's get back to some previous pages. Here will be 4 sketches which I made on location. So again I decided to take it on location, and I went to Stanford, and my first 2 sketches were made at Arizona Cactus Garden. It's a garden with lots of different cactuses, and I can draw different shape, different textures of the cactuses and trees. So that was my first sketch, just to try how it works, because I took it only once till that time, and I didn't fully realize how to work with watercolor at that time. in this sketchbook, so I mean outside. The next sketch I made directly after this one, and this one I like a bit more because I was able to show more different cactuses. I used watercolor and again used watercolor crayons. Not crayons, let me show you this one. No color aquarelle. Yeah, it's water soluble wax pastel. So then I went to Stanford University and also sketched directly with watercolor, then added a few details with a black pencil. This one I made on location, and that one. Then at home I sketched another cactus using my photo from the cactus garden, and I decided to show the flowers with the watercolor pastels, then use the watercolor for the background to show the rest. And this is just a quick sketch of my breakfast. Again, experiments with the oil pastels. Then I decided to smudge it on the berries to realize that I like the dry more, but what's done is done. And then I used watercolor for the background. Okay. Another attempt to sketch outside. So here is the swatch of the palette which I made to take on vacation, but I didn't take this one. I made another one using these colors, and I tried this. And here's the spread of the mixtures of these colors. I usually do it in my sketchbook to see how different colors work together and what other mixtures I can get from these paints. Even limited palette can give me variety of colors. And then this sketchbook celebrated my birthday with me, so I used China marker and then watercolor and some simple flower. Again, some quick sketches. So you see it's already middle of the sketchbook, and I think I was already done with it. So I tried what I wanted, and then I realized that I want to start a new one, but it's still half of the sketchbook which I need to finish. So it's got a bit boring to draw on the same paper, but I prefer to finish one sketchbook and then start another one. So that's another downside of this sketchbook for me, when there are too many pages which I need to fill out, because I want to switch the paper and just to change the way I draw. But anyway, I kept experimenting, and this was the direct watercolor sketch of the flowers which we had at that moment on the neighborhood. This is direct watercolor, just to show the contrast of these white flowers and the background. And then I met my friend. We were celebrating my birthday with her. She brought me some flowers, and I sketched it in the cafe while we were sitting there. I sketched it with a pencil and added watercolor at home. Here's another experiment, and this experiment was with the pen which I bought. So it's a pigment liner which has variety of line you can make from 0.3 to 2.0, because it has this slanted nib like a parallel pen. And it's possible to do a line with the different variety of thickness. So you see that was the experiment which I really like. And this is just 2 small palettes, and I also experiment by mixing the background. So here are 3 colors which I use for the background here, and these 3 colors I use on this background. So I really like these effects. And another attempt to take the sketchbook on location. We went to the tea party in the rose garden. So I sketched some fruits tea and showed my friends how to sketch quickly the rose. And then I actually sketched my friends. They were moving, so these sketches are a bit rough, but I still like it. We're almost done. These were 2 last sketches which I made before I left on vacation, and it's just the morning practice when I just paint with the watercolor whatever I see. And here are some flowers which I had at that moment, because I had still some flowers from my birthday. And then I went on vacation and get back to this sketchbook only at the end of June. So I decided to finish it. It had only 9 spreads left. So I decided that I won't take it outside anymore. I will just use it for my morning practice. And here is direct watercolor sketch of the collection of the gems which I have on my desk. First I use watercolor, and then I added details with the ballpoint pen. I have the simple one. I also made some notes after the vacation, which sketches I want to make, but on the different sketchbook. I wrote the notes of what I see, and just made rough sketches to remember the colors. So that was the sketch of the pine trees and the very pink sunset. I really like this combination. And some other morning routine, morning sketches, whatever I see on my desk. This one is also my morning practice. I made it from the photos. So you see, it's already become difficult to paint. I didn't fix the paper, so it was a bit slanted, and when I use the water it just flows to the middle of the sketchbook. And then I decided that probably it's not worth it to finish it. I just let myself to stop. Some figs. Again, this water flow. And I left 3 pages just for notes. Okay. So what can I say? Would I buy this sketchbook again? Probably not this size, but I would definitely buy the smaller version. I think it would be better to sketch in the small one outside, because I can complete the smaller version faster, and it will be easier to carry around. This one is a bit heavy. For the studio, I think it's the nice paper to work on, especially if you want to keep all your small sketches in one place. It has lots of pages, so you can have it for a long time and keep your sketches in one place. For me, it's kind of downside, because I like to have thinner sketchbooks and finish it faster. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.